All right, I think we're good to go. Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Freeberg. I'm a program manager on Azure App Service.
And I'm high five, Jason, on that side. Oh, I can't even reach. And I'm based out of Johannesburg. I'm a developer advocate, Rory pretty. I have brown hair. I'm wearing a Africa t-shirt here, and I'm really excited to be here with Jason. And I help Jason reach all you developers out there. So back to you, Jason.
And I'll add, I also have brown hair. I wear glasses, and I have a green button-down shirt on. So today we are talking about the Azure App Service Environment v3, or ACE for short, if you hear me use ACE, A-S-E. So let's start off with a little bit of context, a little bit of history. So App Service is a managed platform for web and API applications. So pretty much anything that's HTTP based. And so that means we support popular programming languages like .NET, Python, and Java for some examples. And then we also have developer-focused features to make life easier for those users. So for example, we have features for easy code deployment, setting up SSO and authentication more easily. And then we also have features from what you would expect out of a app service, a hosting platform like App Service. So we have automatic scaling, monitoring, and more features to host your applications. App Service launched back in June of 2013. And so you can still find old build presentations featuring a younger Scott Hanselman talking about Azure App Service architecture from a couple years ago. So since 2013, the service has grew quite a lot. And over those years, we had more and more enterprise customers come to the service that needed to fulfill more sophisticated networking and isolation requirements. And so they needed to fulfill those requirements, but they still loved the managed platform that App Service provides and all of the features that I briefly mentioned. And so along came the App Service Environment, or ACE for short, to fill that gap. So the ACE is still a managed service. So you still get automatic scaling, the managed runtimes that we talked about, automatic updates, and all of those developer features. But critically, it is a single tenant deployment of App Service. So that means the entire deployment, the load balancers, the file servers, and the networking, all of that stuff is dedicated to you and your applications, and it's all hosted within your virtual network. And so since it's within your VNet, that means that the ACE and all of your sites within the ACE will adhere to your networking configurations. So whatever you have set up on the VNet, whether that's ingress rules, egress rules, or a firewall, by default, the App Service Environment will adhere to those rules because it's deployed within your virtual network. So that leads us to the next obvious question. Why would I use an ACE? If there's the multi-tenant version of App Service, why would I go to the App Service Environment? So first and foremost, if you need that dedicated deployment, if you have a business or a compliance requirement that requires you to be on a single tenant service, then that's obviously a great reason to move to the ACE. And next, the ACE is deployed within your virtual network. So that means it will adhere to all of your network's rules by default. Now, on the other hand, the multi-tenant version of App Service, or normal App Service, is administered on a per app basis. So if you wanted to apply networking rules on the multi-tenant version of App Service, you would have to do that for each application resource instead of with the ACE. Since it's within your virtual network by default, it will follow your network configurations. And it helps keep things organized if you do have a complicated network topology. So next up, if you want to control inbound access to your web app with a custom load balancer or application gateway, then you can use the internally load balanced ACE, and we'll talk about that more in detail in a few minutes. So that's a good option if you want to control how traffic is routed to your applications. There's always the Azure Application Gateway, and then there's other third-party services that you can use that are offered through the Azure Marketplace as well. And last but not least, the ACE does allow you to scale farther than normal App Service. So on normal app service, you can scale to roughly 30 instances, depending on your compute tier. But on the ACE, you can scale up to 200 instances. And Rory loved that. So we'll talk about that more in a little bit. So let's go through a quick example to put this into context and give a more concrete walkthrough. So it all starts with the virtual network. Like I talked about, the ACE is deployed within that VNet. And then if you're not familiar with app service, we have the concept of the app service plan. And the app service plan is the compute and billing container for your apps. So it defines the size and the scale of your underlying VMs. So you can have an app service plan that's only scaled to 1 for a low demand web app or an API. Or you can have an app service plan within the ACE that's scaled to 100 instances if that's your main application. So once your applications are deployed within the ACE, you'll add a load balancer to route traffic into the virtual network and allow that traffic in, and then send it on along to your sites. And since your sites are within the virtual network by default, you can securely connect those sites to supporting services like a database, key vault, or a virtual machine. And you can use something like private endpoints for those services. So that way the traffic never leaves your virtual network and it stays within that network boundary. So moving on, there are two deployment types for the app service environment. Like I mentioned a little while ago, there's the internal ACE and the external ACE. And they get these names because it refers to the public inbound IP address. So on the external ACE, it's a public inbound IP address because it's externally visible on the public internet. But for the internal ACE, it's a private inbound IP address. So it's only going to be routable from within your virtual network. So with that in mind, on the external ACE, you'll have to use app services built-in load balancers, because that will be exposed. That will be the role that's exposed on the edge of the virtual network. And with the internal ACE, since that's within your virtual network, you'll have to add some sort of gateway or load balancer within the virtual network to allow traffic in with a public IP address, and then forward that along to your applications. But in both of these cases, the ACE is still deployed within your VNet. So whatever configurations you have on your virtual network, the ACE will follow those as well. So just to show this visually with the external app service environment, you can see it's still within the virtual network. You have the ACE there in the middle. And then over off to the left-hand side, you have the built-in load balancers for app service that allow traffic from the public internet to your sites. On the internal ACE, on the other hand, we still have the virtual network, we still have the ACE, but you can see that the load balancer in the middle of the diagram is only exposed to within the virtual network. So if you wanted to allow traffic from the public internet to those two sites, you'll have to add an Azure App Gateway or some other load balancing service with a public IP address to allow that traffic in. So I hope that helped provide some context on what we're talking about here today with the ACE. And now I wanted to move on to let you guys know about the new ACE v3, which comes with a whole bunch of new features and improvements. So first up, there is now built-in availability zone support, which gives you turnkey redundancy. And as we'll see, it's very easy to set this up. Also, it's far less expensive than the ACE v2. We've gotten rid of the stamp fee, if you're familiar with that. And now you can use reserved instance pricing to save on your ACE v3. Also, the network isolation has been improved. We've removed the internal network dependencies from the customer's VNet. And so we'll go into more detail on that. And also, there are big improvements on ACE v3 for faster and non-blocking scaling over ACE v2. And last but not least, easier management, because some of the infrastructure roles are now automatically scaled for you as you scale out your app service plans. So let's go deeper into availability zone support. So if you're not familiar with availability zones, these are physical locations within an Azure region. So an availability zone is quite literally just a data center building within that region. So here, for example, with East US, here we have a diagram showing 3 availability zones that are within that region. And so each availability zone has its own power, cooling, and networking. So if one availability zone goes down, there will be other zones with their own resources and they can continue to run. Also, these zones have proper update scheduling. So if you are spread across these availability zones and there's an Azure update rolling through, it will go zone by zone by zone. So that way none of your applications are taken out of service from an update. And so here with ACE v3, this is a snippet showing the create blade when you're creating an ACE v3, and you can see how easy it is. You just choose whether or not you want zone redundancy enabled or disabled. And if you enable zone redundancy on the ACE v3, we will automatically spread at minimum 3 instances across 3 availability zones. And that means your minimum scale for that ACE will be 3 instances in that case. Now, one critical thing to note is that this is an option only at deployment time. So make sure you decide on this when you're creating your ACE. So moving on to cost. If you're not familiar with Azure Reserved Instance pricing, it's a concept where you can make a 1 or 3-year commitment for a certain amount of compute that you're committing to use, and you'll save 34% to 57% respectively on that 1 or 3-year commitment for ACE v3. RI pricing is an Azure concept, so there's RI pricing for virtual machines and other services as well. When you purchase a reserved instance, any usage beyond your reserved instance quota will be billed at the pay-as-you-go rate, so you don't have to worry about going over what you've purchased through RI. Now, critically, ACE v2 had a stamp fee, which was a flat fee per ACE, whether you were scaled to 1 or 100 instances, but now it's gone. And so in this diagram, you can see on the far left, we have the estimated monthly price for a single core or for a single instance of an app service plan. So on the far left is ACE v2. In the middle, we have the pay-as-you-go rate for ACE v3. And then you can see the 1 and 3-year reserved instance pricing for ACE v3 as well. So you can see that the cost savings from ACE v2 to v3 are pretty substantial. Now, moving on to another great feature of ACE v3 is the improved network isolation. So what we're looking at here is a typical customer deployment where we have the workers in the middle there that are hosting the customer's applications. There are a couple supporting services like an Azure function and a SQL database that those applications are connecting to. But underneath all of that, there's still the infrastructure network, right? We have the file servers, the internal load balancers, the connections to all of those things you don't typically think about, like container registries and all the rest. So with ACE v3, these are totally separate networks, which means that you can secure your virtual network for your ACE as much as you want to, and you won't have to worry about accidentally cutting off access from an internal role to the app service environment. This also means you can do some more advanced networking topics. So you can route all of your traffic to on-premises if you want to. You can route all of your traffic through an NVC. There are many more options you can do now that the networks have been separated. So under the hood, App Service Environment v3 uses Azure Virtual Machine Scale Sets, or VMSS for short, which allow you to scale faster than the previous hardware used on ACE v1 and ACE v2. So this also means that you can scale independently with this new hardware. In previous versions of ACE, your operations to scale would be queued up. So if you wanted to scale out an app service plan and then scale up another app service plan to a higher hardware tier, those operations would be queued on the ACE. But with virtual machine scale sets under the hood, now those operations are non-blocking. And so you can scale up and down across app service plans much more quickly than in previous versions of the ACE. And so next up, another improvement on ACE v3 is easier management. And so specifically, when you're running an ACE, you'll typically think about the internet traveling into your load balancers, and then from there, that traffic traveling to your applications. But you might be scaling up those applications in and out as your demand grows. And now with ACE v3, all of the supporting infrastructure around your applications, like the file servers, the data roles, and the networking underneath all of your applications, will also scale as your applications scale out horizontally as well. So this will remove any performance bottlenecks and generally improve the performance of ACE v3. So we are at J4K, Java for Kubernetes. So I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our Java support on App Service. We've actually had support for Java on App Service since 2014, so it's been quite a number of years. So you can deploy applications with an embedded servlet, so application frameworks like Spring Boot, MicroProfile, Quarkus, and other frameworks. Or you can also deploy your WAR applications. If you're using something like Tomcat or Jetty, we have a managed Tomcat runtime as well on App Service, so you can deploy your WAR applications there. Now, over the years, as App Service has been around, we've heard from our Java customers that they wanted to have a similar hosting option for their Jakarta EE applications as well. So I'm excited to share that Microsoft has partnered with Red Hat to offer JBoss EAP as a runtime on Azure App Service. So since it's offered as part of the platform, you'll get all of those features I just went over about ACE v3, like the improved scaling, the network isolation, all of those features will be available for your Jakarta EE applications since JBoss is part of the App Service platform. If you don't need the ACE and you don't have those networking requirements, you can also use JBoss EAP on the premium v3 tier on App Service. So what does this mean for you, the customer, if you wanted to take your Jakarta EE applications and deploy them on JBoss on App Service? So first and foremost, this is a jointly supported offer from Red Hat and Azure, which means that you'll get full stack support from both companies. And if you run into an issue or you have a question, you can open a support case with either company, and the support engineers from Red Hat and Azure will collaborate to resolve your case. And so all JBoss EAP applications on App Service are automatically enrolled into this joint support program. And you can get that joint support without having to go over to Red Hat and enroll for support subscription. It's all a part of your JBoss EAP applications on App Service. And so now I'm going to open it up here for a demo of JBoss EAP and Java applications on the App Service environment v3. And so the first demo that we'll show is the App Service environment externally load balanced. And so here we'll have an external ACE with a SQL database. There's a load balancer allowing traffic directly into the virtual network. And on the flip side of this, there's also the internally load balanced ACE, which has a application gateway put out in front that allows traffic into the virtual network and into the App Service load balancers with a public IP address. So
is this my time? Yeah, this is my time to shine though. And I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully everything will work here. We're going to go desktop one and we're going to get our hands dirty with a little bit of code. I love how Zoom just chooses which desktop is going to go and at any given time. So I was super excited. You should see my screen. There's some nice Java code when Jason and I discussed this topic, because I actually like power. And, you know, I'm 4'1" and I have some issues that I'm working through. And and their team only gave me two P3v3 servers. And I remember doing a demo and I tried to scale up and it said, no, you only get two, live demo and everything like that. So I said to Jason, I'll do this session with you, but you have to guarantee me that this ACE V3, I get a lot of power there and I can scale up to X number. So we're going to live scale now up to 31 instances and see if it lets me. Might not do it in time. You can see Jason quivering there and going, oh, it's going to cost me a lot of money. But first, I'm going to show you some of the demos that we've got. So the first thing I've got a little to-do application here. It's got a little to-do repository. It's got a little to-do controller here. And it's a little REST service here that just says go in and find to-dos. Now, I didn't bath my dogs for a while, and the poor little animals started shivering and shaking when they saw the dog parlor recently. So I put a to-do list in my to-do there, and I created a to-do application to remind myself to bath the dogs, get the bread, and do this. So now to deploy this into an application, it's exactly like this is the external version of it. Exactly like you would normally do your application there. You can just right-click. We're going to do a live deployment here. I mean, what could go wrong here? You can just go right-click there, deploy to web app. And what it's going to do, it's going to look at your ACE as you would normally have a application service here. So when it does get its act together over here, you're going to get the little view here. Let's go. It's probably doing it. There we go. Okay, deploy. And it's just going to deploy it. Now, what you don't see here is that my live version has 4 instances over a availability zone. So let's go. See if we can break that right now. And then Jason can actually go back to his product team and say, listen, Rory broke it live. Let's try to fix it. So this is the application you've got there, and it's busy deploying in the background. So we're going to deploy and scale at the same time and see if we can break it. So this is my little to-do application. It's deployed there. It's got get bread and wash dogs. I have washed the dogs already, then shaved them and everything. They schnauzers. So they don't even look human, dog-like anymore. They went from a fluff ball to absolutely nothing. So you've got wash dogs there, and you can see there, you can actually go in and refresh. It is working right now. I've also got the same time, I've actually got it going and stress testing this thing at the same time, because Jason knows I like to live on the edge. So this is what it looks like right now. I've got my external ACE running right now, my application environment. And the external one also has a inbound address. And also, if you want to set up a domain, and you can see there, it's got a domain name there that I can use, and all's hunky-dory. Now, this doesn't have a load balancer there to worry about it, because it is an external ACE version here. And you can scale that up. You can go to your app service plan, and let's go into this. Now, this is a 2000 by 1000 resolution screen. So hopefully I should be able to see all of the screens, because I ain't going to do it up to 31, 32, because that's the most I've ever scaled to ever. And let's go, there we go. Here's my scale. Here's my Linux plan here, and here's my scale out. Now, these servers are just magnificent. Look at, you must see them. They're 8 CPUs. Normally, and I don't know how much gigs of RAM. You can go custom auto scale, manual auto scale, and then I've got instance counts of 4. Now, those 4 servers, the base servers that I got running, and you can see that as I'm doing the deployment, it's working perfectly, is in my availability zones. So they're scattered around there, the 3 servers, the base servers there, and then it round robins to the servers that it's going to pop in there as it actually goes through the zones. Let me actually just move here. I hate it when I look onto the side though, but Zoom makes you, it just pops out a different window. So now I'm looking straight at you, Jason. Now I can stare at your face. So I've got my app service plan, and then you can actually go in here to scale instance, and you can go into either manual scale or custom auto scale. So if you go to manual scale, check this out. Now look at this. Now this makes it all worth it. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Look, okay, well, don't worry, I won't do that, because that'll bring down Azure. But I can go all the way up to 100 servers. Now, if I wanted to, I could go to 200. You can actually phone in and get the support. But I've never done 32. So I'm going to do that live on air. I'm just going to go save. Now I've got 32 servers that is going to scale up with these magnificent applications. They are running Spring Boot, that little Spring Boot application there. And we shouldn't actually see any kind of issue there. I have actually updated it so it doesn't whack my database. I am using a MySQL database in the background. In the beginning, I didn't. So as it scaled up, it actually dropped the instance there. So we'll leave that running there and see exactly what happens. But that's 32 servers, and it's scaling right now. And I did a deployment. And also, I am doing a live scale. But what about the internal version here? So when you've got the internal version, Jason helped me out here. He's got this nice little pick link here. You can go find owners. and I can go find my owners that I have here. And this is running a H2 embedded database here. And I can go through each one of those owners and click through them, and the owners can go in and set up vets. Now this, Jason doesn't trust me too much. This is his personal Visual Studio account. So he actually logged it into behind a firewall. So I can't do anything on it, but I did find a way to scale it up. So I did scale it up one instance there just to see if I had any access. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't create anything because that's really what you want. You want zero trust. You don't want people accessing your network. So if I go into my little, the Jason subscription here, you can see there I've got internal, and I've got the inbound IP address. So that's inside your VNet. Now, if I go into the resources of that, then I can actually see now, let's make that a little bit smaller. If I go into my little resource group here, now I have a load balancer, a gateway that I can set up, and that gateway then will have all of these different rules. I can have rules there, inbound rules, rewrites, health probes, all of these different rules, routing rules to manage the actual ingress and egress for my application, which is great news, which means that Jason can trust me to a certain degree for certain ports and certain issues there. But what he didn't realize over there is that I found a way to get through all of this. So while he wasn't looking on the ACE version 3 here, on the app service plan, I actually went in there and I scaled it to 2 instances. I just wanted to see if I have access to your account there. So I do have 2 instances. Now, this is your Visual Studio account. So make sure you go and scale that at the end of the day. And this application there, once you have that scaled plan, it's running inside your virtual network. It is locked down. You can even activate encryption through and through, TLS, all the way from the start to the finish. So that's really what I want to show you today. We do have a little bit more for Q&A. So I showed you the external. Let's see if I broke the internet. Let's go back here and see here. And let's go back here. Oh, no, it's still scaling up. And look at that. It's going up. It's getting let's see how many instances we have here. Now, to do that, check this out. I can go into let's go into here, the end-to-end distributed tracing for application insights that is switched on by default. Then I can go to live metrics and see exactly how many servers we got there running right now. So as I'm trying to break it, I can see all the servers performing, how many I've got. I want to get to that 32 because that's the more CPUs than Microsoft has ever trusted with me in my life. I once got up to 4 of those P3v3 servers, but then they shut me down. So let's go into live metrics here and let's just see how many servers we got here. So we currently have, okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We're still waiting to get a little bit more though. But as it scales up there, you can see they are being hit with 1 million transactions. That little transaction there, I actually put 1 million of there, and they'll scale up and they'll be performant the entire time as we progress there. And if not, the health probe that I've set up will check that REST service where I say watchdogs. And if the server is not performing, it'll go and spin up another one. So it is really enterprise grade ready application service distributed management. And it allows you to either have internal or external. And I love the external because I can just right click and deploy. And the internal one, you can use GitHub Actions, you can use Azure DevOps, you can use FTP, and it's just great that I can actually now spin up enough servers to make Jason sweat. Okay, so that's everything I wanted to show you. We will keep this on here. I actually want to go back there and just make sure that we haven't dropped any of those calls. I think I did stop that there. Okay, no, there we go. So yeah, so that's going to go up and scale out as we progress through that. So let's take some questions as we see if we can break the internet and scale up though. So I see there is a question. So what's the difference between ACE v3 and app service environments? I think we did cover that. There's many differences. Basically, now you can go home to your family and not worry about all of these internal worries around that. There's also the ability to scale up. The scaling's better. You do have a better pricing. There's a lot of features that you can get with ACE v3. I popped a URL also there with the generally available announcement there. You can go through that on that. So here's another question. Jason, do you want to take that?
The JBoss one?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so the next question is, when will JBoss EAP support clustering and transactions? And that's a great question. The answer is soon. So we are working on that actively right now to support clustering within app service. And so that's enabling the worker to worker communication. And then of course that enables transactions. And so we are going to have previews coming up for that feature, and it'll be enabled on JBoss EAP. There will be an Azure update once we have support for that, because we have had customers ask specifically for that feature. So If you keep an eye on the Azure updates and Azure blog sites, you'll know when that support rolls out.
More importantly, will I get access to that cluster, and will I get like more P3 servers though, Jason? Because like if I'm going to get a cluster and I'm going to live demo with you also, I want some of those servers. So please go tell the powers that be all the way up to Satya that I need some more of those servers. Okay, I'm not going to do Bitcoin mining again on them, please. But if you can actually get me, so look at this. You're giving me 32 CPU, 32 servers there, and no one is complaining. There's no red lights going above you saying, ding, 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 ding. You can give me a few more, please.
We'll have to redo the PV3 demo with
I
some
realized
more cores.
that they probably overlooked that. Okay, so I think that's all the questions we have. We do have some links, Jason, after the demo.
Yes.
So I'm going to stop sharing here. And yeah, so my demo is still running. I haven't lost any questions there, and I'm very proud of myself.
So for resources, you can scan the QR code there, and that'll take you to a Microsoft Learn module about JBoss EAP on App Service on the top right. In the middle, if you go to the Azure Samples GitHub organization, there's a migration workshop that we've been working on with Red Hat. It's still under development, but you can go take a look right now. And this walks you through the process of taking a WebLogic application, using Red Hat's migration tooling to migrate that to JBoss EAP, and then goes through the process of deploying this onto an app service environment like what we talked about today. And then in the bottom right, you can go to that QR code for the Microsoft Learn path for Java on Azure. So that will expose you to a lot of the other Java services and support for Java on Azure. So I think we're getting up to time here. So let's see if there were any more slides. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you learned a lot. Feel free to reach out to us. We had our Twitter handles in the original slide. But other than that, hope you have a great rest of your day. And thank you for coming to J4K.
We need to give them homework though. Wait, one more slide. We need to give them the homework slide. So the next slide is the homework slide, and they need to go through. If you go to the next slide, I think so, because I stole your slides. There we go.
Oh yeah,
resources. Remember, my children have to eat, Jason. So and the learn path is my baby. Yeah, so resources, JBoss and Azure, the JBoss learning module that you can get, the learning path, Java Jet Learn Path, 15 modules there that I painstakingly hand coded with the Java team, co-author of that, and then the JBoss on VMS SS, really great there to go and do that. It's been great. Thank you so much, Caesar and Theresa and all of the team at J4K, and we'll see you next year if I'm invited again. Yeah, so now I'm going to, Jason, just a reminder, please go kill your servers there, and I have to go kill 32 servers right now that have scaled up. Thanks, everyone. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.